Be ready. 5 seconds. Start. This is the first time after this university assumed its present from that I have come here to say a few words to its professors and students. Amongst the universities which can be termed new in the sense that not even half a century has passed since their establishment, this university, except the Banaras University, may perhaps be said to be the oldest. But it was only a little time ago that it assumed its present form, and from that point of view, it may be said to be the youngest of the new universities. Naturally, its traditions have not yet become so rigid as to make it difficult for it to move in any direction it chooses for itself. I therefore expect it to maintain a system of education which would enable it to fulfill all the purposes which education has in the life of man. I have observed on several occasions and at several places previously that our present educational system, whether of the primary or secondary schools or of the universities, does not seem to be fulfilling those purposes, and that at any rate it is not fulfilling those objectives in a balanced way. With your permission, I would like to say a few words about this question today. In my view, the objectives of education are three, two of which relate more or less to the life of the individual as such, while the third is concerned with his collective life. Its first objective is to enhance the power and capacity of reason of the individual given to him by God. It is true that reason is a gift made by nature or God to man at the time of his birth, but in its pristine form, its capacity and power are extremely limited. If a person were to be left to depend on his untutored reason alone, he would not be able to use it for any good to himself or to his fellows due to severe limitations of space and time. But if this rational faculty is enriched by the accumulated experience of the past generations, its power and capacity are increased very greatly, for then the individual is able to grasp numerous truths of great utility relating to himself and the animate and inanimate world around him, which he could not possibly have learned by means of his own unaided reason because of other reasons. The second objective of education is to train the senses of every individual human being as will enable him to employ them for fulfilling successfully all his physical and other needs. While knowledge is no doubt essential for a proper employment of these organs, their practical training is also necessary for the same purpose. However vigorous or energetic a man may be, he cannot effectively undertake any work unless his bodily organs are also properly trained and have some experience of that kind of work. The third purpose of education, in my view, is that it should evoke in the individual the qualities necessary to enable him to live and work with his fellow beings. Whether a person likes it or not, he has to live in society. No one can wholly retire from the world and live in an isolated cottage of his own. The life of complete solitude is nothing but a beautiful fancy of the poet. It is not and cannot be a fact of life. It is impossible that an individual may live in solitude for a little time, but he cannot do so for all his life. So, when collective life is an inevitable and ineluctable fact of human life, it is absolutely necessary that every individual should be fully conversant with the art of collective living. In the ages gone by, when the scale of collective life was quite limited and when economic processes had not become highly concentrated, there was no great necessity for an organized effort to achieve these three objectives or to maintain at every instant a balance amongst them. But today, when the scale of collective life is almost worldwide and when economic processes have become concentrated beyond imagination, it has become highly necessary to make intense efforts to help the individual realize these objectives in his life, not only in the realm of mind but also in that of action. So it is that in the past few decades, people have been feeling in all parts of the world the necessity for a fundamental change in the educational system inherited by them from the past. In fact, we find that different kinds of changes have been taking place in the educational system of different countries of the world. I would not be wrong if I say that in the educational sphere also a revolution has been taking place similar to that which has taken place in the economic and political spheres. In our country and especially in the state of Bihar, unfortunately, there has been no such far reaching change in the sphere of better education.